All right, so over the course of the last couple lessons, we created our arrays from scratch and we populated them with values that we came up with. In most real-life scenarios, you're typically going to initialize the array within a for loop and use existing spreadsheet values to populate it. Then you can do something like iterate over the array and perform some kind of manipulation to its values and then paste it back to the sheet. It's a really easy way to think about a container of data. That's what an array's greatest strength is. So let's take a look at our example right here in a spreadsheet. In column A, I have 10 cells with content, and you can see that these are just common words, and I have a little bit of a problem in every single cell, which is that I have a little bit of extra spacing at the very beginning and very end of each of these words. And what I want to do is apply a trim operation to each of these values. A trim operation, if you're unfamiliar with it, simply removes the leading and trailing white space at the beginning and end of a string. And after I perform that trim operation, I want to paste the results right here in column B. So basically get this cell looking like Excel and do the exact same thing for the other ones below. So here's how I can do something like that using an array. Right here, I'm going to define a procedure called trim values. And of course, the first thing I need to do is actually gather up the values from my actual spreadsheet. So what I can do is declare an array. I'm just going to call it word array. And I'm going to actually start the index here at 1 and go all the way to 10, so it simulates or emulates what is on the spreadsheet where we have row 1 going to row 10. Of course, we don't have to do this, but this is just an easier way to think about it. So I'm going to do 1 to 10. We're going to have 10 total items within my array, and all of those values are going to be strings. All right. The next thing I need to do is to actually iterate over that range from cell A1 to cell A10, gather up those values, and push them into my array. So I can declare an iterator variable. I can declare a variable like I. It's going to be a long. And then what I can do is create a basic for loop. I'm going to loop from I equals 1 to I equals 10. I need to make sure I put a next I here. And I'm going to stuff values into the array. And I can do this dynamically because I know that word array is going to be my array, and usually here in the parentheses we have to give a number that's going to represent my index position. But luckily for us, in this for loop, the value of I is going to be dynamically incremented from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, etc. So I can substitute the value of I into my word array, and if this for loop completes, it's going to run 10 total iterations and populate the array at 10 different index positions, going from 1 all the way to 10, or basically filling all the gaps or spaces within my array. So what do I actually want to fill each index position with? I want to fill it with a value from the sheet. So I can use the cells property here. It expects a row index. That's also going to be a dynamic value because my row is going to be changing from 1 to 10. And I can use I to represent that row number. As far as my column, I'm going to be staying consistently in column 1 or column A, so I can put that. And then from each cell, which is going to give me a range object, I want to extract the value. But in addition to this, we can of course stick with this design, and this is just going to get the values, but we can automatically apply our trim operation right here because we don't need the specific cell value here. We need the cell value, and then we need to trim it in order to paste it back right here in column B. So one of our available VBA functions right here in the back is trim. And if I wrap this entire thing in the trim function, what it's going to do is take this string and just remove, again, all the white space at the very beginning and end. So any occurrences of empty space. So now I've created this array that has these 10 values, and now it consists of the right 10 values, and I simply need to paste those array values back into column B. Unfortunately, I can't paste the same way downwards as I can horizontally. The approach that I showed you a couple lessons ago where we highlighted 2 cells and pasted an array only works when it comes to horizontals. But when we want to paste downwards, we simply can iterate over the array and take each value one by one from the array and paste it into the appropriate cell. So what I can do here is begin yet another for loop. Again, it's going to go from 1 to 10. And what we're going to do is extract the right value from our array and paste it where it needs to go. So it's almost going to be a reverse of what we just did right here above. I need to first reference the cell that I actually want to overwrite, which is going to be cells. I still want to target the rows dynamically, moving from 1 to 10, so I will stay in place. This time, however, I want to write my values into column 2 or column B. So I'm going to do that. That's going to give me a 1-cell range. I want to overwrite the value property on that range. And I need to extract now a value from my array. I know that word array is my array. And I need to reference a value from it, which I can only do by supplying an index position inside these parentheses. And I can represent that index position with my I variable, which again is dynamically iterating from 1 to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And this should do it. So just as a review, what this is going to do is create an array with 10 items. populate them right here by iterating through all of these cells, A1 through A10, and then iterate from I to 10, iterate through these cells, and overwrite their values with the corresponding value from the word array. So let me go ahead and run this. I'm going to click into here, press F5, and there we see the operation has completed. So we've gathered up all of our items into an array, and then we've simply pasted it back. So an array is a really effective way, instead of, for example, reassigning the value that we're iterating over to a variable and then manipulating it and then writing it back. An array is a really easy container that we can use whenever we need to store multiple values. That's its greatest advantage. We don't want to be assigning each different value to a different variable or overriding consistently. Rather, we can just declare this big box. We can set its size, and then we can simply fill that box and then use that box as the basis by which we're going to write our values back to our spreadsheet. That's all there is to cover in this lesson, so I'll see you in the next one.